Who were the weavers? Weavers often belonged to communities that specialized in weaving. Next, their skills were passed on from one generation to the next. The Tanti weavers of Bengal, the Julha or Mamhin weavers of North India, Sal and Kolhapur and Divans of South Indian are some of the communities famous for weaving. Next, the first stage of production was spinning, a work done mostly by women. The charkha and the takli were household spinning instruments. The thread was spun on the charkha and rolled on the takli. Next, when the spinning was over, the thread was woven into cloth by the weaver. In most communities, weaving was a task done by men. For colored textiles, the thread was dyed by the dyer, now as a rangrez. For printed cloth, the weavers needed the help of specialist block printers, now as a handloom, weaving, and occupations associated with and provided livelihood for millions of Indians. Next, if you look at the map of will, notice that textile production was concentrated in your regions in the early 19th century. Next, Bengal was one of the most important centers located along the Members rivers in the delta was production centers in Bengal could easily transport goods to distant places. Do not forget that is the early 19th century railways had not developed and roads were only just being to be laid on an extensive scale. Next, the decline of Indian textile, the development of cotton industries in Britain affected textile producer in India in several ways. First, Indian textiles now had to compete with British textiles in the European and American markets. Second, exporting textile onto England also became increasingly difficult since very high duties were imposed on Indian textiles imported into Britain. Next, by the beginning of the 19th century, English made cotton textiles successfully outside Indian goods from their traditional markets in Africa, America, and Europe. Thousands of weavers in Indian were now thrown out of employment. Bengal weavers were the worst hit. English and European companies stopped buying Indian goods and their agents no longer gave out. Next, in 1823, the company government in India received in petition from 12,000 weavers starting our ancestors and the use of receive achievement from the company and maintain ourselves and our respective familiar by weaving companies superior instruments. Next, advance to weaver to secure supplies. Distressed weavers wrote petition to the government to help them, but work was still to come. By the 1830s, British cotton cloth flooded Indian markets. In fact, by the 1880s, two-thirds of all cotton cloths drawn by Indians were made of cloth produced in Britain. This affected not only specialized weavers but also spinners. Next, thousands of rural women who made a living by spinning cotton thread were rendered jobless. Next, handloom weaving did not completely die in India. This was because some types of cloths could not be supplied by mechanism and machine. How could machine produce saris with intricate borders or cloths, the traditional woven patterns. These had a wide demand not only amongst the rich but also amongst the middle classes, nor need the textile manufacturers in Britain produce the very coarse cloths used by poor people in India. Next, you must have heard of Solapur in western India and Mathura in South India. These towns emerged as important new centers of weaving in the late 19th century. Later, during the national movement, Mahatma Gandhi urged people of boycott imported textiles and use hand spun and hand woven cloth. Next, Khadi gradually became a symbol of nationalism. The charkha came of represent India and it was put at the center of the tricolor flag of the Indian National Congress adopted in 1931. Next, what happened to the weaver and spinners have lost their livelihood. Many weavers became agriculture laborers. Some migrated to cities in search of work, and yet others went out of the country to work in plantations in Africa and South Africa. Some of these handloom weavers also found work in the new cotton mills that were established in Bombay, New Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Solapur, Nagpur, and Kanpur. Cotton mills come up. The first cotton mills in India was set up as a spinning mill in Bombay in 1854. From the early 19th century, Bombay had grown is an important port for the export of new cotton from India in England and China. It was close to the vast black soil tract of western India where cotton was grown. When the cotton textile mills came up, they could get supplies of raw material with ease. Next,